Well, most of my policing experience, of course, was spent in Northern Ireland, and for 30 years of my service, we experienced a very serious terrorist campaign. And what I saw was that those terrorists were prepared to engage in illicit trade, smuggling tobacco products, smuggling alcohol products, in order to make money to fund their terrorist activities. So what I'm speaking on in the conference is the risk today of serious organized crime groups becoming involved in the illicit tobacco trade, particularly because a lot of these groups feel that they can make as much profit through illicit tobacco as they can through drugs, but they feel that the risks to them are not so high. So the message I'm trying to deliver to people in the community, first of all, is this is not a victimless crime. The government loses millions of dollars through legitimate taxes that they should be getting. And when they lose those millions of dollars, they can't build schools and hospitals and roads and provide social support to the community in the way that they can. Small businesses are put out of business by these organized crime groups selling illicit product. So the message to the community is this is not a victimless crime. We all become victims through this. So don't look at it in any other way than understanding that serious organized crimes are behind this. And my message to those in authority is you must pass legislation that takes this activity seriously. You must pass laws where there are serious punishments for those involved. So I think what I'm trying to do is bring to bear the experience that I went through and try to say here in this part of the world, realize how big a problem this can become and take action now to stop it spiraling out of control.
And we actually want to get some more of that information because as it is, you're basically ahead of the curve, seeing that you've been dealing with this for so long. But bringing Mr. Ducoudray into the conversation from the perspective of someone actually involved in the legal side of such production of such materials, what is your experience as on the ground in Trinidad and Tobago with regard to this?
Exactly what Sir Ronnie was alluding to. We are beginning to see, we are at the beginning stage of the problems that he had spoken of. What we saw the last time the government increased excise taxes in 2010, from that point on, we saw a huge increase in the amount of activity taking place with these illicit brands coming into the market, because what had happened then was the difference between legal and illegal pricing, because you now have these higher duties in play, provided the opportunity or made the market more attractive now for people to take the risk of smuggling product into the market. And we saw it start to escalate around that time. And we have seen a continued increase since then. So this is why we were trying to talk to the government before this previous budget here, so that they would be aware of the situation taking place in the market. And if they had any plans to, again, increase excise, please consider that before making a decision. And if so, and if you are in a position, and the minister is in a position where he is collecting $16 billion less revenue in energy income as a result of the situation with the oil and gas prices. So he needs to look around other sources to create income to manage the budget. So we knew that once they were in that mode, that alcohol and tobacco usually fall very quickly in line in terms of being additionally taxed. So we just wanted to really use the Crime Stoppers Forum as an opportunity to educate all, and also to continue engagement and to understand the problem, you know. And it is a problem that's very difficult to stop once that snowball has started coming down the mountain.
So in terms of having not just government address it from their side, people going to the stores, people going to the shops, going to retailers, is there anything that they need to look for, saying, okay, well, this is a product, even though it has the brand name, is the packaging, but it's not legal because it may have come through different channels?
I think Sir Ronnie could probably add to this, but I think we are way behind the game in terms of education. And from the education aspect, yes, we definitely have to educate the consumer. One, what is legal, what is not legal, and two, more so the implications of purchasing illegal product and and how you are helping to finance things that you don't even know that you're helping to finance, you know. And this is where we need everyone to come together around the table. That's part of the education process and work together. So you're talking about government, you're talking about the industry, you're talking about the media and other stakeholders as well to get that message across. Now, we haven't even reached the point really of coming up with an education campaign to start even going out there and having that discussions. But that's where we need to be. And Sir Ronnie would share with you some experience he's had in other markets where they're much further along than we are in that aspect, and we can learn a lot from them.
Yeah, and I think it's absolutely crucial. What I find so encouraging about the Crime Stoppers conference here is the wide range of people it has brought together. People in policing, people in customs, people in private industry, and senior members of the government and NGOs all coming together. Because if we are to seriously address this problem, we can only do so through partnerships of all those people working together. But to come back to your question, what can the ordinary man and woman on the ground do? Well, they must be very vigilant. If somebody's offering you something way below the market price, you should be immediately suspicious, because illicit tobacco can take many forms. It can be originally legitimate product that has been smuggled, or it can be stuff that's made in factories without any care for hygiene, without any attempt by the people manufacturing that product to reduce the harm that it causes. So people must realize this is not a victimless crime, and if they see something, they should say something. They should be reporting to the police about this activity which goes on. They shouldn't just think, oh, I can get this product cheaply and therefore what harm am I doing? Ultimately, the people who engage in this illicit trade don't care how young the people are who take these products. They don't care about the health effects of what they're putting into these products, and people have to be alive to that. So this conference has been a wonderful platform for raising that awareness, for beginning that education program that Jean-Pierre refers to.
In terms of actually dealing with the issue of illicit, and just illicit tobacco, we're not talking about illicit drugs in general, we know anything that is going to take root and be impactful takes time. So we're looking at things in the short term, we're looking at things in the long term, we're trying to set policies and structures in place. What are some of those low-hanging fruits, some immediate ways that we can actually start to address the problem?
Well, what we can do, and again, Crime Stoppers, through bringing together investigative agencies right across the world, because this is a global problem, and some of the illicit product that ends up here could come from India, could come from China, could come from Eastern Europe. So we know those routes, we know the tactics that people employ. So different enforcement agencies from all across the world coming together and using international bodies like Interpol, for example, can begin to attack those routes and be very vigilant about the product that's coming into the free zone, the free trade zones and things like that. So there is a lot that can be done, and this conference is facilitating that action and the ability to engage in that action.
So I think there's two sides to that coin. One is the enforcement side, right? So you have to beef up your enforcement capabilities to make sure that we have things in place on the ground that could put a little bit of fear into the people, so they think there is some risk associated, because at the moment there's no risk. Yeah? Have you ever heard anyone of being arrested for smuggling tobacco in Trinidad? It's never happened. Yeah. On the flip side, I think at the end of the day, once your market remains a smuggler's paradise, people will always be willing to take that risk. And what has made Trinidad a smuggler's paradise is the constant increases of taxes over the years that have made a huge separation between the legal product and the illegal product. Yeah. On that, having said that, I am very happy in the minister's remarks for the budget. After he made the increases to the excise tax, he did specifically say in his speech that he does recognize that there is a problem with smuggling of tobacco products in Trinidad. And he is committed to putting things in place from an enforcement or working with customs to try to deal with that, because he appreciates, other than the social aspect, he appreciates as a Minister of Finance that he's losing income from these brands coming into the market and not paying taxes.
But can he just speak with customs and have that as effective as possible? And I say that because say for example, Whitco has people on the ground, you have distributors, so we have people who are able to look and most likely say, okay, this is our product, this is a product that we're responsible for, we distribute. This is kind of shady, let me report it. How does that collaboration work?
Well, I don't have the details yet, but what we have now, where we've reached now, is that we have an acknowledgement by the minister that it's a problem, right? Which I think is a huge step, right? So they're not in denial anymore. They've come out and they've said we have a problem. So I think now he's in solution mode, yeah. So I think this is where we as the industry that's where we can add value, because we are a global organization. We have access to other activities, other programs, and other best practices in other countries where they have similar or even worse problems, where we have success stories. So we have access to that information that we can share with them, and they can pick and choose which one of those activities or programs they'd like to use. But I think the shift in paradigm is to include the industry in the discussions. And up to now, they have been very hesitant to do so. Yeah. So we're here to put ourselves on the table and let all know that we are available to be part of the solution rather than being part of the problem.
Speaking about that shift in paradigm and actually getting some ideas of best practices or experience, so Ronnie, what are some of the things that have actually driven that breaking down of silos so that different agencies can speak with others? Because I can see customs sometimes wanting to do their own thing, and then you have law enforcement doing their own thing because you have the different rules, different people that you report to, relate and communicate with. But in terms of saying, okay, this is something that all hands need to be on deck, otherwise we don't get the impact that we want. What has really caused that shift?
That's absolutely right, and that's the value of events like this International Crime Stoppers Conference, because all those bodies are brought together and they realize that only through working together can they really address these problems. You know, in the United Kingdom, it's estimated that through illicit tobacco trade alone, the United Kingdom government loses something like 2 billion British pounds per year. And actually, everybody's heard of Scotland Yard and the London Metropolitan Police. They account for a little bit more than 25% of British policing. And their annual budget, ironically, is about 2 million British pounds. So if you think that's the sort of money potentially being lost to governments, and what governments can do with that money for the good of their citizens, this is something that affects everybody. Now, we're not talking in this conference just about tobacco products. Yesterday we had a very telling input from a lady in South America dealing with healthcare products. So you have stuff used with children that are being counterfeited. You have disposable razors being counterfeited. You have people in some parts of the world collecting disposed razors in rubbish dumps and recycling them so that people don't know. So what I would say to the public at large, if you are offered a product by an unlikely seller in an unlikely place, in unlikely circumstances, at an unlikely price, it's probably very dodgy. Be alert to that, and don't think you're just getting a good deal. You're getting a very bad deal. That happens and you see evidence of it, report it to the police. And let the authorities, the police, working with all those other bodies that you mentioned, let them do something about it.
And here we talk about cutting off your nose to spite your face. So it might be playing, it might be being penny wise and pound foolish, but this just kind of underlines to me, and I'd like you all to speak on it, the importance of having events like these and actually having them shift so that people can actually build capacity, because sometimes one person goes to an event and they get knowledge, but they may shift from that job and the information goes with them. But the importance of building capacity and having it in something that is roving so that people can share experiences, because crime is people are integrating and interacting with each other and learning best practices. So it should be like that on the other side as well.
Absolutely, and criminals recognize no borders. So we who are involved in enforcement must also not be restrained because of borders. We must work together globally because this is a global problem, and only through that great panoply of efforts against them will we bring about success.
In terms of the debates that start on October 6th, is there anything that you'd like to see specifically to your industry or sector?
Well, I mean, I think it's done. The excise increase has been installed. It goes live October 20th, so we're preparing for that. What I would just ask for going forward, perhaps a little more engagement with the industry, and not just the tobacco industry. I know that there are other industries that are suffering the same fate as we are. I know for sure the alcohol industry is feeling it. I know some of the pharmaceutical suppliers are feeling it. But I think more engagement with these industries so that the minister would have a better understanding of the implication of additional taxes would mean.